Oh man, hello, welcome. Come in, come in. Yeah. So Derby went to Vicarage Road this evening. They lost 2-1 to Watford in a game that actually was. I thought it was a little bit weird, to be honest with you. So Watford in the first half were brilliant, in my opinion. Derby went back to the 4-3-3 shape um, in an effort to. Thank you very much, George. I appreciate that, mate. Derby went back to their 4-3-3 shape in an effort to combat Watford's 4-3-3 shape. And in my opinion, that was the correct thing to do. You can't have a spare man when you've got Chalabar, Cleverly, and Will Hughes in there. 3 versus 2, Derby got cut open. So they went back to it. The problem was, and Derby have been better against teams like this. I think the problem was there was always going to be a team, I think, that when they're on their game would make Derby pay. Look, we kind of learned that Watford are a better team than Derby tonight, and there's no shame in that. Like, Watford are a team that are what level with Brentford now at the top two. That's going to happen when you've got a £40 million winger in the team. Ismail Assar, oh my God. Now, the first goal is weird because in the build-up there's a push on Jason Knight by Will Hughes, and yeah, it was weird because if you're not giving that, there was a bunch of pushes like that then got blown up for fouls. We'll talk about the Andre Wisdom goal later, but then Lee Buchanan is favourite for that ball, and the jet that Sarr turns on. Oh my fucking God, that is unbelievable speed. And that's what £40 million on a wing gets you. And Watford somehow held on to him. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in if that's the guy. There's no shame in that. It's 2 minutes in the first half. The corner that Will Hughes scores from that Derby don't properly clear, that's much more preventable in my opinion. And also Pedro gets a little bit of luck with the deflection off Wisdom. But the corner for the second goal, you've just got to properly clear that. And how, from their own corner and within a few seconds, Derby have just let Watford have all this space inside their box and Hughes picks his spot. That's much more preventable. The second half, Rooney gave it about 5-10 minutes, and then he brought Gregory on. And it looked like they went more to a 4-2-3-1, and sometimes Gregory pushed up and made it a bit more like a 4-4-2, but he was dropping as well. And Derby were better in the second half. They coped better with Sarr on the right. They still had issues with Hughes. He was still picking up far too many pockets of space, and I think that was a byproduct of Shinnie going off, because presumably he would have been the guy to track the most creative player. But in the second half, Derby went much more direct. They tried to get the ball outside quickly. Nathan Byrne was much better in the second half. He struggled a little bit in the first, but he was much better in the second half going forward in particular, where he dug out a few really nice crosses. A few of his corners were quite good as well. The last one was not good at all. But the two before that and the few he tossed in before that were pretty good. Martin Wycorn had a rough night tonight. I thought he had a really, really rough night. He's tracking back, in my opinion, was pretty poor. There was an instance where Sarr just kind of, they're in the corner near on Derby's left, and Sarr, he doesn't do much. He just sort of, fakes to come and get the ball and then goes. And it's a really laboured tracking back effort from Wycorn. He's late to react, and Sarr whips a ball in and he gets cleared, goes out for a corner. But I thought he had a rough night. He had two crosses in just miles and miles of space, and he overhits the pair of them. Unforgivable for a professional footballer to do that. It's on his favourite side. He doesn't have to check in. He's not hitting it with his right, but just really, really does overhit them. And that's surprising considering he's been so good from set pieces lately. Really has been quality with them. And then even tonight with the corner that he put one in and it was flat and didn't beat the first man. It was poor from Wycorn, I thought. Kazim Richards, when he got the service in the second half, thought was better in the second half. Didn't really get too much service in the first. Patrick Roberts, I imagine Patrick will go back to the bench for the game against Huddersfield. He, in the first sort of 20 minutes, he kept collecting sort of really nice little pockets of space out on the right. But when he had the space to put a ball in, he chose to check inside, and rather than then play burning on the overlap, he chose to check inside and keep going inside, and then the move breaks down. Watford get bodies marked up in the box, and the move dies. And he did that 3 times in the first half, and it was pretty bad. And then obviously he comes off after 58 minutes. The goal that was disallowed, it is soft. It's really, really soft. I don't really know what to tell you. At the time when I saw it live on the telly, because I'm at home, it was one of those where you thought, well, it is soft, but equally, you see those sometimes given as fouls, and you see sometimes the ref asks the keeper to be stronger, and it's given as a goal, because the protection that goalkeepers are afforded. That's the rule. I don't like the rule, but that's the rule. So you can just expect those sort of things. But he actually comes out and meets Wisdom. Wisdom kind of just stands his ground and actually has a defender wrapping him up and stuff like that. I think that should have been allowed to stand. I was reluctant to go in really hard on the ref, because again, it's one of those where the keeper's going to get that protection, that's going to happen, and you have seen them given as fouls before. You'd be lying if you said you haven't seen them given as fouls. You have. So I didn't want to go in too hard, and particularly because of what happened at Ipswich, and we've seen pieces about how referees are assessed and stuff like that. So I didn't really just want to go out and bury the guy, because my job is to try and be impartial, is to say, look, that's soft. You've seen him given. You've also seen him not given. That's kind of is what it is. I thought it was soft. I thought it was a goal, but I've seen those given as fouls. However, in an era where VAR exists, and it doesn't exist in the Championship, but in an era where it is a thing and it does exist, Kazim Richards looks offside for Derby's actual equaliser. Now, one might say, well, he doesn't touch the ball, but in the interpretation of the offside law, which I'm not even sure any of us understand, but if he is involved in play, i.e. his run makes the defender change his run or positioning, you could see that flagged for offside in a VAR world, right? Like you've seen weirder decisions, and his head is just offside. So yeah, I guess they kind of got one. They kind of got one back. Now I will also take the argument that, well, they don't have the technology. But it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? That's kind of how it goes. By no means a disgrace tonight. I thought, again, Will Hughes in the team, Cleverly in the team, those guys really cool operators. Chalabar, who Brendan Rodgers wanted to take with him at Leicester, that's how highly he's thought of. £40 million winger in Sarr on the wing. Lee Buchanan had a tough night dealing with him, because he's probably the best winger in the league. And that's what you expect at £40 million. I'm not going to act like, he's come out of nowhere. If you're a £40 million winger in the Championship, you should do those things every single time you touch the football field. That's just kind of how it is. And Lee Buchanan had a rough night dealing with him. I like Pedro. I really, really like Pedro. His movement's really smart, really clever. Offers something to Deeney, who's much more of a big target man, but he sort of drifts in and out, and him and Sarr frequently swapped, and they rotate. And it kind of caused Derby a few issues. Thought Edmonton equipped himself pretty well tonight, to be honest. Thought he did track the runs really smartly, shepherded the ball out of play really well. Was good in the air when he had to be. Didn't get run in behind. There was one with Wisdom where Pedro peels off Wisdom. Hughes clips a lovely ball over the top. And if it has just a little less air on it, Pedro might flick that past Marshall. So yeah, but look, there's no disgrace in losing to Watford. The decision against Wisdom, I understand, is very annoying and anger-inducing, and people will say it should have been 2-2. But in a VAR world, if Kazim Richards is flagged offside, So let's get to some. Thought tactically we got it wrong the first half. Evan, I wouldn't disagree. I think it's weird, because had they stuck with the 4-4-2, they'd have been outnumbered in midfield. Even though I did say at half time they probably needed to go 4-4-2 for anything, and go more direct for anything, to bypass the midfield and to get an extra body up front in Gregory, which they eventually sort of did do. But I think they've played this way 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, but they've played this way against the bigger teams in the division: Brentford, Bournemouth, Swansea, and they've actually played really well against them. Now, it could be a case of law of averages, where at some point you're going to face a team at that top end of the division and try and match wits with them, and you're going to get cut up. And let's be honest, Watford could have had 4 in the first half. They flashed in some really nice looking balls that, if the defender's toe is just a little bit longer, then they stab that in. It's 3-0, 4-0, whatever it is. So yeah, I think tactically wrong, maybe not so much, but maybe going more direct from the get-go would have been the play. And you can do that in a 3-4-3 and just work the balls more vertically up the top. But I understand why you went back to doing that. And I would kind of expect to see it again against Huddersfield. The disallowed goals seem madness. Don't think we played badly at all in the second half. Hughes ran the midfield for them. He looks class. Yes, Tom. The disallowed goal, as I've said, I disagree with. But my reasoning for why I didn't bury the official on Twitter was, in my estimation, kind of understandable. But yeah, I didn't like the decision. Definitely when I saw it again, I didn't like the decision. But again, kind of swings and roundabouts with the Colin Kazim-Richards thing. But yeah, yes, it is soft. Hughes ran the midfield. I thought particularly in the second half, while Derby were better and he wasn't as his creative best. Without Shinnie on the pitch, he kind of just had free reign in that midfield because no one was truly tracking him or picking him up. Obviously, Knight was going box to box, up and down, and I thought Bird got lost in the shuffle a little bit. I thought he was picked on a little bit in there by Watford. Have we been humbled? I wouldn't say that, Aaron. There's no shame in losing to Watford. There's no shame in that. They put 6 past Bristol City. Watford are a very, very, very good team. It's taken them a while. They've changed managers, and under the previous one, they were a bit more. I remember when Watford came to Pride Park, and they weren't great at all. They were very, rigid. That's the word I'm looking for. They were very rigid. They weren't that free flowing at all. That's 7 wins out of 12 now. And yeah, I thought I didn't think it was a humbling at all. That'd have been 4-0, 5-0, 5-1. Then yeah, that's a humbling. But to lose 2-1 at Watford, that are on a high, and I know Derby are on a high as well. But all we really learned is Watford are a better team than Derby, and the table shows that. So no, I don't think it's a humbling. I just think it's Watford were a better team. Sometimes you get beat by better teams. Derby had some chances. Soft goal. Move on to Huddersfield, a very beatable team. And then after that, Nottingham Forest, another very beatable team. Simply outplayed tonight. Yeah, Derby not awful, but Watford very good, confident for Huddersfield. Yeah, I'd agree with most of that, Joe. I think in the first half, they were particularly outplayed, definitely in the first half. Second half, they showed things up. They dealt with Sarr a lot better, and they became much more direct. Kazim-Richards got more involved. Lee Gregory did some nice things, and they were better in the second half. I thought the second half was much more even in terms of its general play. Watford still did carve out a couple of really nice chances. The Cleverley cross in particular was really good. But the first half, yeah, in particular the first half, Derby were lucky to get in at 2-0 in my opinion. How many chances does Waghorn get because he can take corners? Well, Josh, when corners are a massive part of your game, it's kind of handy to be that good. Now, he had an off night tonight with them. There was one he sent in that was really, really poor. But yeah, his general play, as I pointed out, his general play was really poor tonight. And I imagine he might go back to the bench, although I don't think Patrick Roberts really showed that much to show he deserves another start. So yeah, I'm not really sure. With Lawrence still out and with Ibe working his way back from his personal problems and from and to fitness as well, Sibley's not a natural winger. Whittaker's gone now. They're limited out wide. So yeah, I imagine maybe even if it is only for his corners, he might start. And if your corners are a big part of your game plan, yeah. Looking forward to the weekend cycling goalkeeper video. Edmondson very good on the ball. Yeah, I thought he was, Evan. Yeah, he looked an accomplished player. There was one right at the end where he tries to find a diagonal to Burn and he overhits it a little bit and thought Burn could have done better to control it. But yeah, he looks handy. He looks like he's a player that will do better, considering his size and his nickname, the Fridge. He looks like a player that will do better against forwards that are a bit nippier and want to move and create runs and all sorts of stuff like that in and around the box than he does against a guy like Ikpeazu, who really bullied him against when Derby played Wickham. Ikpeazu had a field day against Edmondson. Can we have a song on the guitar? It's a ukulele, and not right now. I have promised, and I will keep my promise. Pinky swear, I will keep my promise. But it's got to be a space. If I'm playing that live for all of you, and it's on the internet and it stays there forever, where you can just rip the piss out of me forever, it's not after a 2-1 defeat against Watford. If Derby stay up and it's the last game, it's the last day of the season, we're all feeling good, then let's all get liquored, and I'll play you some tunes on the ukulele. But not after a 2-1 defeat against Watford. I did say, when did I say it? Last year, where I said if Derby won on Boxing Day, I'd do it, and then they lost. I think so. Anyway, where are we? But a goal at that time would have been better than later. So, I take it. I take that point, David. I do. A goal, at that moment in the match, is much better, and it gives you more time to go and get the equaliser. I fully understand and fully appreciate that. And yes, we don't have VAR in the Championship and stuff. I fully get that. I was just trying to articulate that swings and roundabouts, basically, with some decisions that you do get a little bit fortunate with. But yeah, that's the one. But I do get it. Happy that you didn't cave in the game. Yeah, overall, Derby, while they lost the game, they didn't roll over and have their tummy tickled, and that felt like a game. So you remember the Blackburn game at home? Oh boy, do we remember the Blackburn game at home? That felt like a game where Blackburn got 2 in 2 minutes and Derby just fell apart, and Blackburn would probably feel aggrieved that they didn't win that 8-0. In this one, Derby concede 2 in, minute and a half, and they don't completely fall apart and concede the third and the fourth, and the game's away from them. They stay in it. That's a good quality to have. Even if they lost this game, that staying power is a good quality to have. We saw it against Wickham. You take that into Huddersfield. This Huddersfield team are there. Like, they are there for the taking. They've not won in a month. Like, right now, they're a bad team. So Derby should feel very confident going into that game. Sibley in with a shout for a start on Tuesday, you think, Ryan? That is actually an option, John. Yeah, I didn't really think of it. So with Sibley, I don't think he's a natural winger. Well, he's not a natural winger. We all know that. He's a 10. But if Waghorn is going to have an off night like that from open play and his corners and his set pieces, and you think, look, we can have Burn tossing corners, put Sibley out there, give him another chance, see what he can do. Again, particularly against a Huddersfield team that isn't easy, but you're probably going to have more joy against them than Watford. So, maybe he had a couple of bright moments in there tonight, I thought. The petulant foul at the end does my head in, and we know Sibley's got that in his game, and that's something that he needs to iron out as he grows and matures as a pro. He plays on the edge, and sometimes that gets him in a little bit of trouble, and that foul on Sarr at the end was really needless and petulant. And yes, Derby they get their chances and they get 3 corners, but you don't need to commit that foul. I know you're frustrated, I know you're losing, you want the ball back, but just don't commit the foul. A throw in, anything to not let Watford just bleed the clock like that. A much better second half. The corners again caused problems, but we struggled to deal with Sarr. Yeah, pretty much spot on, Kieran. I thought they were better dealing with Sarr in the second half. I also think at times it seemed like Sarr was, I wouldn't say contented with his work for the evening, but he certainly wasn't giving Lee Buchanan the runaround like he was in the first half. Corners again were a big issue for Watford, and that one where the goalkeeper has to tip it onto the post from Burn was a real heart in your mouth moment. And again, they didn't change the routine. They changed the personnel in terms of who makes the run, but the runs themselves never change. And I've got a piece about this corner routine, which genuinely gave me so much excitement to scout and to watch. It's really, really good. Shay Given, who put that together, is brilliant. No way Yushviak bottles that challenge on the edge of the box for the second goal, missed his work rate tonight. And again, this is so Yushviak has come in for some flack lately for not playing well, offensively not playing well, and I agree. I think offensively he's been pretty meh at best. That final ball he really needs to sort out, but his work rate, his willingness to basically just get kicked up and down the field all game and then come back and ask for more is a quality that I think goes unnoticed, because you can't really measure that. You can't really track that. It's not like a goal or an assist where you can look at the stat sheet and go, right, they've got 5 goals and 6 assists. But it is such an underrated quality. He's a courageous little player, and he gets stuck in. And I do think Derby missed that a little bit this evening. I don't think Roberts was as willing to do that. And, Combs mentioned it on Sky Sports that Middlesbrough felt that Patrick Roberts wasn't physical enough for the Championship. If you're going to shirk 50-50s and, not going full-blooded into tackles and stuff like that, that's the sort of stuff usually at will do. So maybe he's done enough to roll the dice and get himself another start. If we beat Forest, you play the ukulele. I'll think about it, because I'm yet to witness a Derby victory over Forest. I know that's a thing that some of you have not witnessed for a good couple of years now. They didn't win under Frank either, did they? No, so we're going, man, are we going back like 3 seasons since Derby beat Forest? Maybe. I'll think about it. If we batter Forest, do a guitar solo. Yeah, all right. What else we got? Massive fan, Ryan. I thought Shinnie. Oh, thank you, Mark. I thought Shinnie would have pressed on Hughes a lot more. Wasn't surprised to see Shinnie being subbed off. Yeah, I thought someone would press Will Hughes a lot more. I thought someone would do it. Just pick a guy and have him follow Will Hughes everywhere. If there's one guy in that midfield, look, I think Cleverly is functional. With can have those nice moments of passes, and I think Chalabar is more box to box. So I think you can get away with not leaving them free, but giving them a bit more room. But you follow Will Hughes, you follow him everywhere, you man him up everywhere he goes. Do not let that guy pick you apart, because he'll make you pay. Maybe simply playing as a 10 and a 4-2-3-1. Yeah. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. If you want to go with Knight and Shinnie as holding, drop Bird out. I thought he was kind of picked on tonight in midfield. Put Sibley up there. I wouldn't mind that actually. I'd be okay with that. No problem, David. We always try and be fair here, my man. We always try. I rate Sibley on the wing. Look, see Regan. Sibley, when he was on the wing, was it against Birmingham? And he was absolutely magnificent. But then the next game against Wednesday, he was so bad. He was so poor against Sheffield Wednesday out on the wing when they lost that game 1-0. And I think that kind of gave Rooney like the yips to put him out there again, because I thought defensively he didn't really track back well. That night he had a bad night taking players on, and he's a player that I think if he beats a man early, he's that kind of player where he's like, yeah, okay, I've got you tonight, I've got you all night. But if he becomes unstuck with his first 2 or 3 dribbles, I think that's kind of where maybe he tries too hard and he then tries to take on the same player again and again, and he gets frustrated. And I thought he did that against Wednesday, where he was out on the wing, he was trying to beat his fullback, he couldn't, he kept trying, and it just wasn't the night for him. I like him better as a 10 on the half turn, if I'm honest. I think he's got qualities that are good on the wing, but I like him more centrally, particularly if he can drift as well. I like that. He's just not got the end product when Camille gets. Yeah. When Camille gets that in his game. Yeah, absolutely, Regan, mate. He's just not got the end product. And I think I pointed this out when I did a piece about Camille last January when Derby initially registered their interest and wanted him. I watched some of his games for Lecce Poznan, and I looked at him and thought, he looks like a really, really tricky winger. But even then, his end product was at best. But I think the way that Rooney has coached certain things out of players, so Bird defensively, I think, has been a lot better tonight. Not the best example, but overall, I think Bird, when he's come into the team, has been a lot better defensively. Graham Shinnie's technical qualities have been accentuated, and he's got better at those going forward. Shinnie used to just be a pure ball winner, and now he's more box to box. And I think a lot of credit goes to obviously Shinnie, but of course Rooney and the coaching staff are getting that out of him. I think that's enough faith, and in Camille's own ability, to assume that at some point he is going to put it together. Now, I spoke to a few people on Twitter, and in my discussion about this, is if Camille's adapting to a new league, new teammates to build some chemistry, and his manager changed, and one manager is now expecting a lot different things out of him than Koku did. That's kind of going to put you in a bit of a tailspin. It's like any of us in any job. You start a new job in a new country, trying to build chemistry with these new people who you're trying to pick up cultural differences and all that sort of thing. You get sold this vision by your boss. This is how you're going to be used. We're doing this thing, and then 3 months in, all of that is in the bin, and you essentially have to start again. So I have a little bit of sympathy for him because of that. That doesn't excuse his poor balls, but I think it's a case of you just need a little bit of patience, and it might take a season, it might take a year. Ronaldo came to Ronaldo came to England kind of like that too. Now we're not saying he's going to be Ronaldo, but that development, you can see that sometimes the penny drops. I think even Sarr, when they brought him in at the Premier League, he kind of struggled. Not Sibley. Sorry, where are we? Last couple. Wagon defensively keeping him in the side. To be honest, Harry, I actually thought Wagon was pretty poor defensively tonight. There were a couple of laboured chases back for Sarr and the right back. His name keeps escaping me. I'm really sorry. It's been a long day. Him and Buchanan had real issues down that left. I thought this was one of Wagon's poorer defensive displays. Any more? No, I think that's it. Roberts was poor. I felt. Ridley. I thought Roberts was quite poor. He had moments where he worked himself a little bit of space and could have put the cross in, and he didn't, and that's annoying. And I think, if you want to do that, bang him out on the left. Because Wagon's always kind of played on the right when he's in the team. So have him just be your inverted winger. If Roberts wants to look to get, because he was picking his head up, but he just kept sort of drifting in field. If he wants to do that, put him out on the left. But I think this is a balancing issue now for Derby, because they do have quite a lot of wide options. But like Wagon's not a pure winger. So when you put him on the right as an inverted winger, which is where he is better, that compromises Juzwiak, who is not, in my opinion, good as an inverted winger. You play him as a pure winger. But then if you do that, you have to move Wagon to be a winger, and he's not a winger. So they've got options out wide. But in terms of the balancing, I think it's going to take some time to address that with Roberts in the side, and who knows how far away Lawrence is. And obviously, I will be ready when he's ready. Right. That's it, folks. Enjoy your weekend. Yeah, because it's Friday. Look, the loss sucked, but there's no shame in losing to Watford. They're a quality outfit. They're going to be in the playoffs. They might even go up automatically. They might even be champions, because this league is batshit. So who knows? £40 million winger. They're going to do £40 million winger things you would expect in the Championship. So, yes, I have got a piece on Derby's Corners, which is very exciting, and you should all read it. You all have a lovely, lovely weekend. If you're out there working, key workers, all that stuff, thank you so much for going out there. It's awesome. In a pandemic, which is just mad as fuck. All of you stay safe. All the best to you and yours. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you Wednesday. I'll see you at Huddersfield. Take it easy, folks.